Everybody, welcome. Another episode of On the Bench, and a special one because I am talking to you with Zach Blostein. I'm talking to you with Adam Brown, but I'm also talking to you with the man of the hour, the the busiest man in the FSU NIL landscape, and that is the Battle's End CEO, Ingram Smith. A personal friend of mine. I know something that he probably doesn't want broadcast out there because that will totally nuke his professional and personal standing. But Ingram Smith is with us on this special post ESD post mortem edition of On the Bench, also sponsored by the Battle's End. So I'll probably keep my jabs at him to a minimum because he's paying my bills tonight. So you know what? Sponsor guy, I'll talk to you first. Ingram, how are you feeling after your first ESD as the president of the Battle's End, man? You've had it's been a crazy run, especially for you.
Yeah, it's certainly been a eye-opening experience and incredible experience, and a lot of things that I thought I knew about the world of recruiting, I know that I do know now, and a lot of things I thought I knew, I was wrong. I will tell you that it's a lot of stuff on this that it's just impossible to know unless you're on the other side of it. Particular NIL values, nobody's gotten that formula right yet, and because there's morons in the space who don't adhere to any formula for good reason. So I'm going to be pretty reluctant to bag on people too much when there's just outliers all over the place. But no, it was a good day, man. It was not to sound too, formulaic or company man, but I think it was a good day for the program. Got some really high end kids from the high school level, and then you're able to kind of more formally display the work that you've done in the transfer portal over the past couple of days or past couple of weeks. So fun day, work to be improved upon and things that could be cleaned up. But on the whole, I certainly didn't have, the significant unraveling that you did last year once signing day came.
No, we all look much more mentally healthy, a lot less disheveled. Last year was a test for everybody, so I definitely don't feel like I felt last year. I felt on the whole it was mostly positive. I do think that there are some things that can be cleaned up, and to be honest with you, Ingram, what you guys have done so far, especially with all the player retention stuff for an organization that, how long have you guys even officially been in existence? Is it less than a month?
Yeah, it was. I believe we incorporated this either early December or, there were some things that we thought might transpire in the collective space that didn't. So we just decided to create our own thing. And we've been around for, maybe 3-4 weeks now or something like that. So
thank you for that. We all appreciate that. But you decided to, in 3 or 4 weeks, the entity comes even into fruition right before signing day. So the fact that you could even get into an organization running and being effective in that amount of time, that's pretty amazing, honestly. So we'll talk about all the ins. We'll talk about the specific recruits. Ingram can give his perspective from the other side on some of this stuff. Zach, you're looking fresh, man. You were all over South Florida on the phones in the car. You're looking good. We'll get all Zach's inside stories, and we'll get Adam's fresh, unvarnished perspective. He's got some things that he wants to get off his chest. Just kidding.
Pics, right?
He's a big, cuddly teddy bear. But Adam, I guess I'll start with you first, man. What was your thoughts overall on Florida State's early signing day? Just to give the people listening some stats. Right now, this is combined with high school and transfer portal. It's the 17th overall class in the entire country. They've got a 90.03 average per recruit. So that averages out every single player as a 4-star. And the blue chip ratio actually, it bears that fruit. They had 22 current, I think they're all signed of some sort. So we're not even talking about commits anymore. Like 22 members of the class, 11 of those were 4 stars or higher. So that's right in the middle, 50% blue chip ratio. That's what you're looking for to compete for the upper echelon of college football. There is a marked difference though when you separate transfer portal and the high school. 4 out of the 6 transfer portal guys, so 2/3 of them, 4 stars or better. And then 7 out of the 16 high school guys, so a little less than half, were 4 stars or better. So that's where the class sits by the numbers. Of course, 24/7's rankings are pristine, so everything that we say is gospel. Obviously, shout out to Dabo Swinney. But, rankings are subjective, and each player brings something to the table. So, Adam, what do you think of Florida State's efforts so far for Tribe 23, how it's borne out so far, not completed yet?
I think it's bearing out basically how it's been the entire time. It's good, just not good enough. I think in the end they continue to come up short in this realm, and I think there's some process issues that need to be figured out and figured out quickly so that you could take the next step. All so far in the month of December, I've heard we're out of rebuild, championships, recruiting effort doesn't seem to bear that out. I'm maybe that's negative, and I shouldn't be negative, but I think it's just reality. I'm really thrilled with what they're doing in the portal. Really thrilled with player retention, what they're bringing back, and pushing the chips all in on what this upcoming season can be potentially. But you've got to start developing depth through bringing guys in at the high school ranks, especially at the line of scrimmage. And we just continue to kind of fall short there. It was disappointing to lose a Keldrick Falk today. I thought that was a big time recruitment that unfortunately went the other direction. I just think you continue to look at spots where we're not reaching these blue chip ratios that we want to be reaching and questioning why.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and I think a lot of people would definitely agree with you. I would say that I think a lot of the reason that you could see like the market difference in the transfer portal is that for a certain extent, Tribe 23 had to recruit through the stink of a 5-7 season. Now, that didn't just happen like out of the air. Obviously, coaches, players, circumstances you couldn't control were responsible for that. Whereas you can see that transfer portal class, they get to immediately capitalize on the fruits of this past season. So hopefully that's more of a harbinger of things to come. And 24 looks like that. I can tell you from where they're sitting right now, it does kind of look like it. But I think that those are very valid points, Adam. We can talk to like some of the processes and maybe some of the things that they can clean up because it's not, they don't need an overhaul. This wasn't doom and gloom like last year. In my opinion, I think it's minor tweaks. Zach, what do you think? How do you think the day went? And you saw this cycle from soup to nuts, my brother. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think it went. I would put it average, I guess. Right, like AB said, I think you kind of wanted to keep Keldrick Falk in the class. Obviously, one of the crown jewels of the class before he flipped to Auburn. But an underrated thing of this is like in past years, we really haven't seen FSU been able to lock down their commit list basically completely in December's early signing period. That's what they did this time around. They got all. I don't know how many it ended up being. I think 15, 16 guys to lock in for right now in the December early signing period. And, I don't think they're going to worry too much about February, the traditional National Signing Day, which, in past years, that's become a focus for FSU because of, the turmoil of a postseason after not having a great regular season. So I think that's like an underrated positive of the day. That we're not having, as the staff isn't having to worry about, the 2023 class for the next 2 months, and they can start moving on to 2024 and building those relationships, which, I think it is an underrated and an important aspect of what some of these top and upper echelon teams in college football are doing nowadays. But yeah, I would like to see a little bit more star power. But there's still some guys that I think, in 2-3 years can be dudes for FSU. And obviously you got some guys at the top of the class like a Hakeem Williams, Lucas Simmons, Blake Nicholson, Keith Sampson that are all impressive prospects on their own.
That's a good point, man, because in past years they've been having to do back work, right?
Yeah.
Like a kid that should have been signed in December took it to February. Like they've had to do that. They've had to hit on some spots where they missed. They don't have to do that anymore. They did a really good job of locking down all their current commits, -1. We'll talk about it. But they did a good job of locking them, getting them signed early, and there was none of that like NLI drama that today was nuts, man. Like it's funny because like Florida State, where I'd say overall the fans are either mildly positive or mildly disappointed. Dude, we are so far in the middle of that bell curve from all the swings that happened from both, man. It was a very volatile early signing day, but I think that's a good point, Zach. And I think Norvell, probably said it best, a good way to describe this recruiting class. You met needs. You had needs that needed to be filled. You filled them all. And you filled your top needs with top quality players. Hakeem Williams, stud. Lucas Simmons, stud. Blake Nicholson, man, a dude, a guy that can play. So your needs were met. It just wasn't like the upper tier where it's always needs plus, needs stacking. So they're not there yet. I think they will be. I think the best way to go through it is we can just go down all of the players based on, I guess we can start from the highest rated guys down to the lowest, unless Zach or Adam, do you guys want to talk about the guy that they didn't get and then maybe some guys that are still out there first, or do you want to go through the guys that actually signed? I'm dealer's choice. I'm fine with either.
Let's go through the ones that did sign, then we can get into Falk and who's kind of left on the board.
Ingram Smith, Hakeem Williams, a guy that Florida State was linked with last year, coming off that 5-7 season. I would have bet the ability to ever eat blue Doritos again that Florida State had absolutely zero shot of signing this kid. I really would. Not a chance. Like Texas A&M, Miami, especially after Cristobal, not a chance. They locked him down. They kept him in the class. Florida State, for all the talk, the legitimate talk about possibly some processes issues, some closing issues, nothing with Hakeem Williams, dude. I don't think the kid ever set foot on another campus besides Florida State for the past month and a half. Ingram, this is the type of kid that can take Florida State over the hump. Talk about Hakeem for a bit.
No, I mean, there's some disappointments today, but there's no disappointment associated with Hakeem Williams, that's for sure. And I don't know that this was ever all that dramatic of a situation. I mean, I kept fielding calls. I said this on the Nolecast earlier. I field calls almost every day for the last week, multiple times, people concerned about Hakeem Williams, and I couldn't really figure out where it was coming from, and certainly not to a point where I ever got concerned about it. I mean, I just, I don't know all the details on all the high school recruitments, but I certainly have followed recruiting for a long time. I didn't see Hakeem take any trips anywhere that appeared to be tied to visit another school. I know that he made a couple quick trips to Miami immediately after the commitment, or sometime shortly after the commitment, but never saw him took an official visit anywhere. I never had you never saw anything on social or anything else that made you think that there were other coaches in his living room every other night. So I think that on this one, credit done. Credit needs to be given to the staff, to other supportive pieces of the process that allowed you to get this commitment based off the early performance coming out of the gate. And man, I don't know that it ever really wavered. This one was one that I was not a concern for me personally, and I don't think the coaching staff were all that worried about losing today.
Yeah, dude, he spent more time playing.
And if he really sent his he sent his LOI in at 7:01, then he's even cooler than I was aware of.
So I confirmed that actually that he had sent it in. He had sent it in at 7:01, was processed by Florida State around 8:30 a.m. in the morning. And I went to Hakeem Williams' announcement. Side note, it was an awesome deal again. Like his September ceremony. He had a DJ there, was held at his middle school, and they handed out "In Hakeem We Trust" shirts, and the entire middle school body was all wearing them. I posted a photo of him taking a pic with all the kids afterwards. Pretty cool moment. His whole family was there. His middle school coach, high school coach, and it actually was ran really well. They had his highlights played on the side, so it was cool. But yeah, so I reported after speaking to some people there that I was told that Deion Sanders himself called Hakeem Williams while he was on his way to his ceremony. By the way, his NLI was already processed and everything by FSU, which is something that these coaches at other schools can check. And I'm told that Deion Sanders is not the only guy not the only head coach that was hounding Williams in his camp up until he signed. Mario Cristobal was absolutely blowing up not only Hakeem's phone, but multiple people in that camp's phone up until that announcement. And man, that dude is wild. Let's just say that. I was made privy of some of those messages, and relentless is a word, but I mean, some of that stuff is borderline crazy.
There you go.
But I guess that's just how he rolls. Not something I would support, and not something that I don't think FSU does any of what I saw. So no, awesome get by FSU. I was never worried. I kind of reported earlier today that about the letter of intent already being signed and set into FSU. and then just waiting to announce it for his ceremony. So I think FSU fans kind of knew earlier on that not to worry about this one.
It was nice, man. It was like the antithesis of the Travis Hunter thing, and I only bring up that comparison because Hakeem did it himself. It was like jubilant, dude. It was a celebration. It was signed, sealed, delivered. Chops were thrown everywhere. Hats, like it was nice, man, and it was good to get that one across the finish line. Ingram, what did you have to say, my friend?
Yeah, I don't know that I saw, something that has been confirmed by the authorities, but I saw some messages that I were just like, dude, if this is actually from a coach, and one of them was just a random Twitter graphic that I was like, are you just grabbing shit off Twitter and sending it to recruits?
I think we saw the same messages.
Was it a big game boomer chart of the coaches that have the most swag?
Yeah, it was a graphic kind of explaining like Miami was better than FSU in some category, a screenshot from Twitter.
Except for the score.
Literally one category. Holy hell.
How many wins over the last 3 years for you? I can't remember. I just remember looking at this and being like, damn, sometimes I'm blown away by the process here, and sometimes I'm just like, wow, okay, so we're just
maybe he should have pulled a Dabo and handed out Bibles for NIL.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That's great, and that's honestly coming from you, who grew up in the fires of like southeastern, like Georgia recruiting. You've seen some things, and the messages you saw were they grabbed your attention, big man.
I was just surprised. I mean, I was just not what I would think that's the last pitch, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe I saw some, BS graphic or something like that. But it sounds like Zach and I saw the same thing, which makes me think that I probably saw something that's authentic.
2 independent sources. It's the truth. Adam, Hakeem Williams game. What do we get? You got any player comps? What does Florida State have anybody remotely like him on a roster of pretty talented wide receivers right now?
No, they don't.
Okay,
big,
that was quick.
Big, physical, fast, balance, explosive, body control, hands. I mean, he's got the full package. I mean, there's a reason he's number 15 player overall, a 5-star wide receiver. There's a reason he was so coveted. He, to me, was hands down the number 1 receiver in the class this year. He was the number 1 receiver that I wanted them to pursue and go after. They went out and got him. Hat tip to Ron Dugans, Mike Norvell, Alex Atkins, anybody that was involved in this. Hat tip to Coach Shu. If you know, you know. Good guy. So, yeah, it's one of those deals, like, be excited about this one. Hopefully he's going to come, bring that work ethic with him to Tallahassee, work his tail off, get some reps next year. As far as like player comps, I don't know, bro. I haven't thought about this too much.
If he's a unicorn, he's a unicorn.
Brendan kind of said Jordy Nelson. I never
Julio
I never loved that one. Huh?
Julio Jones. I've heard some people.
Julio Jones. I don't know. His game's different than that.
Yeah, he's not quite as long and yeah, I wouldn't call him Julio. I don't know who to compare him to. Just
I thought AJ Brown, but he's not as AJ Brown's short, stocky. He's not short. He's like 6 foot, 6'1". He's stockier and thicker than what Hakeem is. But their games remind me the most because Hakeem is a guy who I think could take the top off down the field with speed, but he's more likely to catch a dig route, break a tackle, and then take it. Like he's a very physical player.
I like all those comps. I don't know which one's right, but it doesn't matter to me. All those sound good, in my opinion.
Be very excited.
Lucas Simmons, another one, dude. Florida State's, we don't have to do he's a guard, maybe a right tackle, he can cross-train. No, my Swedish brother, he is a tackle through and through. Demaryius Thomas, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, Lucas Simmons, guys. Zach, the story of Lucas Simmons' commitment, I mean, they did such a good job with him. Whatever they said to this kid resonated. It stuck. He was heavily pursued. This is a kid, high 4-star, like a top 10 offensive tackle in the country. We know that is a coveted position when a kid is a no doubt surefire tackle coming out of school. What's the story behind Lucas Simmons, man? Their second highest rated commit.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time FSU's gotten an elite level left tackle prospect that isn't some 6'7", 200-pound kid that's got to be developed over 8 years?
He's got a great frame, though. He's really good frame.
No, I mean, Lucas Simmons still has some development to do. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, 6'8", 300 pounds, already a guy that's dominating at the high school level. As far as the story of his recruitment, not a guy that was about recruiting hype. was all business oriented, really genuine dude. I think that's kind of why Florida State got, had some inroads here. Took 4 official visits over the summer in the month of June: Tennessee, Florida, USC, and Florida State, and then made a decision in July based on those 4 schools. FSU won out against some NIL powerhouses like a Tennessee and a UF, and obviously USC. All 3 schools that are doing well in those categories. But man, that was a huge get for Alex Atkins. And not only did they get him then, they keep him solidly committed, even though he took, I believe, an unofficial visit for a UF game later on in the season. After that, there was really no worry about him signing. Makes it official today, which was huge for FSU as they look to further improve an already up and up offensive line room that Alex Atkins has improved a ton since he got here.
All right, I want to move on to Blake Nicholson, but first, Lucas Simmons, Adam Brown, your favorite recruit of the entire class?
No, it's Hakeem.
Whoa, that's an upset.
Dude, that's pretty. Picking somebody over a big nasty. Interesting, man. I did not expect that, and I've been doing shows with that.
That's high praise for Hakeem Williams.
That is high praise. Speaking of another kid who deserves high praise, 4-star California linebacker from California, Blake Nicholson, Ingram Smith. This best linebacker that Florida State signed in a while, right? From California.
Yeah, from the high school ranks, probably the best linebacker you've signed since D-Jack. But a guy where you had some nice relationships as far as I think Derek Ray knew the family. I think he's from that town or has some kind of family ties to that part of California. And obviously Derek comes from the West Coast from his previous place of employment. Just a legit ass linebacker, something you haven't signed in a while, and a different level of linebacker than you've signed in quite a while. And a guy who's has a frame to play earlier than I think most will expect. Probably a little bit of a adjustment getting here, but I see early, and that's a couple of DJ Mundy's offensive snaps as well as he gets more comfortable in the program as well. So
those numbers are eye popping, man. If there's like the line, we're going to be the linebacker, goal line, fullback hybrid, like powerhouse, dude. I cannot wait. Adam, Keith Sampson.
I think some of that was specifically done for Nicholson, to be honest with you.
Really?
That's the
Would make some sense.
I like that. Okay. 4D
Nicholson's a freak. I mean, this is the kind of athlete they've needed in the linebacker room. We've talked about, guys like Amari Gainer have been highlighted for a while. We'll see how Nicholson gets in here and gets comfortable at being a college linebacker and gets developed. But I mean, he's got the potential to be the real deal.
Adam, Keith Sampson, 4-star defensive lineman from New Bern. What do you think about his game? Where is he lining up along the defensive front?
I mean, I think he's probably a 3-tech for you. Big, explosive, gets off the ball really well. Big hand striker, plays with leverage. Comes off nice and low. Which are, these are all traits you want your D tackles to do. He's a penetrator though. If you recall back to our Darrell Jackson scouting report, he's a guy who's a space eater, going to eat up blocks. Sampson's going to get after the quarterback. He's going to get up the field, get shoot gaps and play in the backfield. So it's a nice pairing. They've brought in a lot of guys that can kind of eat blocks and hold space. This is a guy who can push the pocket and be a menace to the quarterback from the interior of the defensive line.
How much? When do we think early contributor? Or is he going to need a year or two to season?
I don't know. I mean, first off, it was huge that they were able to lock him down, get him signed. There was some. He might wait till February, and then, you do those kind of games that you never know what the hell is going to happen in the second kind of recruiting window there. It was huge. They were able to get him lock him down this past weekend on his official visit, get him signed today. Is he an early contributor? I mean, that room's got some guys. I mean, Daniel Lyons, Bishop Thomas, Ayo Tafasi,
Farmer, Josh Farmer,
Malcolm Ray, Josh Farmer, Darrell Jackson. You've got guys in that room that are pretty talented. I would think Sampson's probably a year two contributor. Get him in here, develop him some, develop his body, get some of that baby fat off, put some muscle on him. Let him get used to Odell's coaching, kind of get used to that technique that Odell likes to teach. I wouldn't say he's a day one contributor, but who knows? You get a couple blowouts, you get him 4 games, and see what you got.
Ingram, let's move on to an edge prospect who I know you were receiving no calls about him moving his commitment. That's Lamont Green Jr., the Boots, because if that kid ever decided to go otherwhere than Florida State, I don't know what's like the age limit to be in an orphanage, but his dad would have immediately disowned him, so I wasn't worried about it. Lamont Green Jr., man, like Ingram, you're a historian of Florida State football. What does it mean to get this very talented legacy prospect?
No, man, it's awesome. I mean, Lamont, I believe, was the USA Today Player of the Year coming out of Southridge High School 25, 30 years ago or whatever. So certainly has some pretty dynamic, genes or bloodlines there or whatever else. But a good prospect in his own right, works his tail off, benefits from the fact that his dad has an idea of what it takes to be successful at a level like this. And plays at a decent level from a high school perspective. I have a family friend who's actually got a son at the high school and has just kind of talked to me for years about Lamont Green Jr. and is wildly impressed by him, and a guy who I value his opinion on athletics because he was a professional athlete and now coaches in baseball. So it's not just some random Joe who's observing a kid grow and turn into a real legit player. So whereas the previous prospect that we talked about, I think Sampson is wildly raw, but needs a year with Storms to kind of remake his body and to turn into a college football player. Boots, Boots is ready. Boots will be ready from a weight room training perspective as much as anybody in this classroom. So be interested to see what they can do as far as the talent development there. But a guy who's, aware as to what he's getting into and will be as ready to contribute as anybody in the class.
6'3.5", 228, put some weight on there. But yeah, like you said, I feel very like a kid well matured beyond his years, like a pro, like a veteran at like 18 years old. He's going to come in and do the work, and he's a highly productive kid. Speaking of productivity, Vandrevius Jacobs, all day Dre from Vero Beach. Not quite Brevard County, but pretty close. So I'm very familiar with my people out in Vero. A kid that this never usually happens. The fan base screaming, when's he going to get his 4-star? When is he going to get his 4-star? It only took about 9 million yards and 800 touchdowns. He got his 4th star, locked in with Florida State. The rebirth of the donk in full effect. My God, what a shout out to Ron Dugan's just donking all over this class, man. 2 very, very talented prospects, and another we'll talk about. But Zach, all day Dre, man, like the kid blew up. He was extremely productive, and he was solidly locked into Florida State. Any intrigue behind this recruitment? Maybe any suitors that we didn't know about? Because Florida State fended him off really easily.
Yeah, not that I know of as far as other suitors. I'll check on that in the coming days. Brennan and I are planning to do kind of a backstory recruitment, either podcast or story on the site, in the next week or so. So that should be fun and something to look forward to. But Dre, not I wasn't made aware of any drama late with him or throughout his recruiting process. Honestly, committed to FSU a long time ago. I believe it was last summer, and I mean, had a pretty good season for Vero Beach in his junior season. But man, his senior year was crazy. 100 catches for 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns. Just an absolutely absurd stat line, especially in the state of Florida. I'm not sure that Vero's playing at an insane level of competition, but he's dominating and doing what he's supposed to do. And if you watch the film, you can see, what I'm talking about. I mean, this is a dude that's just an absolute playmaker, can do a bunch. And I think Mike Norvell and the FSU staff are really excited to get to work with him.
Adam, Sam Singleton, Fleming Island, 4-star running back. The only running back of the class. You chuckled when I said his name.
Perfect.
I don't know. Why?
No reason.
Go ahead, bud. Well, let me know what you think of his game. Another highly productive, the only running back in the class. What do you like about his game? What else do you have of note to say?
We loved what we watched this senior tape this morning on the show, and loved everything we saw. I mean, he's a true one cut running back, explosive as all get out. I mean, he could get down the field in a hurry. I think I heard Yak on their little uh, coaching wrap up or early signing day wrap up today talk about him being like a 10-500 guy. I mean, the speed jumps out at you immediately. You see him on outside zone, what he can do. He looks so much like Trey Benson, not as big and as physical as Trey is, but he looks so much like him with the running style. Kind of runs upright, but just so stinking fast. I mean, I think they've got to be thrilled to have him in the program. I hope to see some versatility out of him, whether he catches the ball well. You don't see a lot of that on his tape, but I'm sure it's in his game. Showed the ability to run inside, which is something off his junior film that we were worried about. Did show some of that ability in his senior year, showed the physical nature to run hard inside, get tough yards. So, I mean, he looks like the complete package. I think you could understand why he's a 4-star running back. They should be happy. They've got him to add him to that room. I think he's a nice compliment to Rodney Hill, who is a really physical kind of decisive running back that I think can run counter very well for you. Then I think you could come with Sam. You can put the two of them in the backfield, run outside zone, run counter with the two of them out of a pony look and be very successful.
Yeah, and Hill's got good hands too, right? Like he's a threat out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Once again, complimentary. And if it's I'm excited as the Mike Norvell era progresses. If we can keep leveling up the amount of talent that he's had, because you've seen what he's done with like JUCO castoffs, like 2-star guys at Memphis. You've seen what he's done with like 3-star guys and dudes that people even questioned that they should have had an offer. And Trey Benson, you've seen what he's done with these people. Guys coming off catastrophic injuries. You give him elite talent, spooky hours, as the children say.
I think the one thing we've learned, if anything, is to always trust Mike Norvell with running back takes.
Yeah. I'm not.
AB, I had a question for you on Singleton. Whose game does he relate to the most currently on FSU's roster, you think?
I think it's Trey. I think it's Trey Benson. I mean, I think that they're very tight-footed, so they run very narrow. They're one-cut guys. They're going to get downhill. They look to get their shoulder pads square and get north-south as fast as they can.
Zach, South Florida DBs, let's start talking about it. Edwin Joseph, who actually committed today. He is from Chaminade, Madonna. He is listed as a 3-star athlete on 24/7. I think he's a little bit underrated, at least from what I'm seeing from an athletic perspective, because if you look at the quality of offer, and if you look at the intensity that this kid's recruitment generated, doesn't scream high 3-star to me. Give us the inside scoop on this, man, because came to FSU, wasn't supposed to go to Louisville, made it to Louisville, kind of did like a Keldrick Falk last minute, like one day visit thing, and it looked like it came down to the wire, but Florida State felt really confident about this kid. What? Give me the inside story behind Edwin Joseph. Just we haven't talked about Conrad Hussey yet, which I think is the top tier South Florida DB recruitment, but this one is 1B, man. It's just a prototypical South Florida DB recruitment. Let me know what happened with Edwin.
Yeah, so took an official visit to Florida State 2 weekends ago. I think it was kind of all but locked up for Edwin and FSU. After that visit, I think he was planning to do an announcement at the Saturday National Championship game that his team played. Chaminade Madonna played out in Las Vegas. That obviously didn't happen, like you alluded to. He went to Louisville for a last-minute visit this past Sunday. But he told me today, I went to his ceremony where he announced for Florida State, that he knew that FSU was his school, and he made the decision that Sunday night or on Monday. So, looks like FSU did a great job of fending off the potential suitors. And Louisville, honestly, wasn't even the team that I was most worried about, or I think FSU was worried about down the stretch. I think Miami was trying to make a late run. Mario Cristobal, I believe multiple members of that coaching staff met with Joseph's parents this previous Friday. He was out in Las Vegas for the game, preparing for that national championship game, but they did meet with his parents, and this was a guy that they were trying to get in with late. And yeah, I mean, a great job by the staff to fend it off, and a guy that I think can contribute for you. And like you said, I think he's a little underrated. And he mentioned to me that they're probably going to play him a little bit at nickel to start. And I think that's a good fit for him. AB, what are your thoughts on kind of what Edwin brings to this program?
Yeah, I agree. We put out it's on X's and O's. We put out a scouting report today on him. Maybe had that done a little early. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Just fired it quick.
He is a nickel, very good feet, very athletic. Isn't as big as you would like to play on the outside. They want to get bigger, longer on the outside. That doesn't necessarily fit what he is. But yeah, I mean, he's super athletic, really good feet. It's what you're kind of looking for out of the nickel spot. Good ball skills. I mean, all the buzzwords he checks, but they got to get him in here and figure out where he plays best.
He reminds you of any like recent Florida State DBs at all? You want to watch him play?
This isn't a shot. It's going to sound like a shot, but it's not a shot. He kind of reminds me of like a better Kevin Knowles.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's
not
fair.
trying to take a shot at Kevin Knowles. Like I like Kevin Knowles, and we've been critical of his play this year, but yeah, he kind of reminds me of like an upgraded version of him. A little bit faster, a little bit longer, just in his arms.
Yeah, just a little bit more athletic.
Yeah.
Ingram, Brock Glenn, the quarterback from Tennessee. He's a 3-star. He was a 4-star. I think that for what he does for Mike Norvell's offense, like we watched the highlight tape on X's and Knowles, the type of stuff, the type of concepts that he's doing, just a absolutely tailor-made fit for Mike Norvell's offense. I think the kid even said that as much in his like post like interviews, like this offense is tailored for me. It was their preferred quarterback of the cycle of like Chris Parson and Ricky Collins. I think that they zeroed in on Brock Glenn. They got their guy. They pulled him from Ohio State. Ohio State had a very interesting signing day. Not very Ohio State-y, which their fans annoy me, so it doesn't bother me at all. But anyway, what do you think about Brock Glenn with the story behind the recruitment? It was one of those ones where the relationship, the kid really did need proof of concept. He had it, and then boom, Mike and the boys got him.
Yeah, I think it's just a nice pickup. I think you need to stack quality arms, and this is one of those, and he fits your system really well. I agree, Trey, that of the quarterbacks that you thought you were going to have a legitimate chance at in this class, he certainly appeared to be their premier option, and they were successful in ultimately getting him back. And I don't blame anybody that commits to Ohio State right now with where that program is and what it's been over the last 5 years or so, particularly compared to where Florida State's been. But yeah, I mean, I think you just got to grab one of these a year, and you grabbed Duffy last year. My friend demands that I call him Space Jam since he saw this T-shirt with him wearing it once, and I don't know why my best friend's voice just popped into my head there as I was looking for AJ's name, but anyways, there you guys know. So you got Space Jam, you got Brock Glenn, and then you got a super dynamic kid out of Savannah next year in Luke. And if you can sign those three guys consistently, then we've certainly gotten out of this process where we just don't sign high school quarterbacks for years on end. And is he a super elite prospect? No. But is he a really good prospect and a guy that you want to get into a habit of signing each year? 100%.
Well said. Zach, Darren Goldie Lawrence didn't take his official visit, did sign with FSU. At this point, do we think that the receiver prospect out of Sanford, do we think that he's going to end up making it into Florida State's class? I mean, I don't think they'd let him sign if it wasn't manageable. I think you've already talked about that. But any more info on that recruitment? Got a little squirrely there near signing day?
Yeah, I mean, just the same as kind of what I reported before, okay. That, FSU feels like it's a manageable situation with his academics. He's got a little bit of work to do, but they feel like, if he locks in and just gets his work done, he'll be good to go to enroll this coming summer.
Adam, I'm going to give you a little BOGO opportunity here. Kenton Kirkland, the safety from Jacksonville, Jabril Rawls, the cornerback from Pensacola, Florida. What do you think about these two prospects, guys that Florida State locked up? I mean, signed, sealed, delivered, no issues. What do you think about both their games? Which one do you think? I mean, do you think upside at all, or what do you think about their games?
Kirkland for sure. Rawls, I think he's got to come in here and get in his weight program and put some mass on. Both are really rangy prospects, though. Think they could line up at safety. Think they could. Rawls more corner than Kirkland, but yeah, I think that they got to get in here, get themselves developed, but really rangy, which is what they're looking for.
Zach, the two prospects out of Mississippi, the Joneses, Jaden Jones, the JUCO defensive lineman, defensive end. Quindarius Jones, I forgot that he existed, even though he is a very talented prospect, a guy that showed up really well in that Mississippi All-Star game. There was a lot of reports that Florida State had really kind of uncovered a nice hidden gem there. Quindarius Jones, the cornerback. Well, their recruitments were funny, man. They locked it in, and then that was it. FSU all the way. What do you think about these two guys? Jaden Jones, pronouns pal, is coming off of an injury. What do you think about these two prospects?
Yeah, I like the upside for Jaden Jones. I know he's a guy that the Florida State staff is excited about. Had a season-ending ACL injury in his this past year at Hutchinson Community College. But he's a guy that FSU wants to get in their program, get him going through the rest of the rehab process, and start getting acclimated to their college lifting regimen. And I think if he's able to get under Josh Storms and buy in there, man, he could be pretty special. FSU literally offered him off of practice film from this past spring. And they weren't the only school to do that. I mean, there were multiple other Power 5 schools, Missouri, Houston, a few others. And he committed a few months after that. Hasn't been a worry since. And I've kind of said this multiple times. I think Brendan has too. Maybe in 2-3 years we're looking back at kind of how this recruitment panned out, and we're saying that FSU maybe got a little bit lucky that he wasn't able to play his last season at Hutchinson. And as bad as that might sound for the kid, obviously a bad situation. Never want to miss out on playing football, but a guy that FSU definitely values and thinks can have a bright future in Tallahassee.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
And then Quindarius Jones, just wanted to touch on him real quick. Mm-hmm. Another guy that FSU, both kind of under the radar dudes, especially Quindarius. Surprised he hasn't reported another offer. Chris was kind of talking about that earlier on the live stream, the early signing day stuff. But a guy that FSU had at their elite camp, Kevin Little, was super high on him. Literally, knew nothing about the recruits there as far as who they were, and that was a guy that stood out to Kevin. Well, a little after that camp, they offer him, get a commitment really quickly, and he's been solid ever since. A dude that they think will start at safety. Stands 6'2", 190 pounds out of Meridian High School over there in Mississippi. A guy that also stars on the track and field, does long jump, 100 and 200 meter dashes. Just a really athletic kid who can do a lot. I believe, I don't know if it was Adam Fuller or Mike Norvell, but someone said at a press conference today that he could play basically 6 positions on defense because of how versatile he is.
Fuller actually said they're going to start him at corner.
Oh, okay, really?
In the thing afterwards today.
Nice.
That's pretty versatile. 6 out of the 11 dudes on the field. That's pretty versatile. We talked a lot about Chris. I guess, is he Andre Otto now? Did we do like a Meta World Peace thing?
Yeah, I think we actually changed the name because that's what FSU announced it by.
Andre Otto, it doesn't matter. To me, he's Alfredo Scorsese. He's in. We talked a lot about him. Mauler, smart kid, future film star, best of the best, cream of the crop, totally underrated. Can't wait to give him a couple years with Storms and hopefully a couple years with Atkins. We'll see how that one goes. I'll save the last high school one for you, Ingram, because he's a Georgia boy. DeMarco Ward, the linebacker from Georgia, highly productive, and a guy who is, I think he's practicing right now with FSU, man. What do you think about DeMarco Ward? What do people around Georgia say about his game?
Yeah, didn't love it when I first saw the commitment, to be honest with you.
Sure.
His tape from this year was a hell of a lot better and significantly assuaged concerns that I have, and my concerns don't matter. So, that's what it is.
I disagree.
But, it did look like a significantly better player. And, a guy who played on a Duluth is a solid little program here in Metro Atlanta and played a decent level of competition in high school. And, I would not have the concerns that maybe I did about that commitment a couple months ago.
Adam, you agree? Did you see? Was it more athleticism, guys? What did you see that kind of assuaged that a little bit?
We put his film on this morning, and my thoughts are exactly what Ingram's saying. It was night and day. his junior film, he called a lot. He really was just kind of eating up blockers and guards. The whole in every highlight, you saw some flashes of him getting through gaps and shooting gaps and finding space and making plays, but not much of it. This year, it was really a lot of you saw him finding a window, getting through it, playing in the backfield, looked more explosive. Kind of looked like he knew what he was doing now. I don't know what his high school time has been like, if he's always been a linebacker or whatever. But Shannon talked about him being a two-way guy, played all the time, played a couple different sports. They really like that. I thought his film looked much better. I felt a lot better coming away today after watching him than I was going into the day.
Those are all the high school signees. I want to talk about the transfer guys. I don't want to go into too much detail, not because they're not worthy of it. They're awesome. Like all the guys involved in transfer portal recruiting, coaches, staff, third-party people have been murking the transfer portal. It's been straight ponage. It's very, very impressive. The only reason I'm not going into details is because as soon as they happen, we do commits, and you guys know all about their games. But Keandre Jones, guard from Auburn, Jeremiah Byers, the versatile offensive lineman from UTEP, Casey Roddick, inside O lineman from Colorado, Screw You Prime, Kyle Morlock, the guy who looks like the dude from The Office from Shorter University, except extremely good football player, Jaheim Bell, human highlight reel, Daryl Jackson, come on home. Those are all the transfer portal guys right now. So we talked about all the guys that have happened. Got to have a full, well-rounded discussion here, but I did want to give the kids that decided to come to Florida State the time and the attention that they deserve. Let's talk about the guys that said no and the guys that haven't said anything yet. So let's talk about go ahead, Adam.
Can we get an update from Zach? I know he posted on the board, just a Conrad Hussey update, because that's the one high school kid that we're still waiting on.
That's exactly what I was going to say, but yes, let's talk about Conrad Hussey.
Yeah, so this one's been absolutely insane. I kind of illustrated that on the message board. I check in on this multiple times every day, and it seems like every time I get on the phone, something new has developed in this one. And it's usually a leader change or a change in the announcement time. It's been crazy. But yeah, so I reported tonight that I think this one will come down to Penn State and Florida State. Penn State is the school that Conrad Hussey's committed to, 4-star defensive back out of St. Thomas Aquinas. Miami's involved too. They're still, trying to get him on the phone and stuff. But from what I've been told, I think they have a lesser shot than the other two. Hussey was supposed to announce his decision today. He did not, to my knowledge. He is now planning to do it tomorrow, from what I've been told. When he wants to have a final decision. Yeah, who knows? This could all be irrelevant, like I said, in another hour. But if I had to predict it right now, I'd have him ending up at Penn State. I think they've been there the entire time throughout his recruitment. Obviously, he committed there in April. So a staff that's been on him for a long time has built great relationships, and that staff does a really good job inside the Sunshine State with Juwan Sider and others on that coaching staff up there in Happy Valley. And right now, I think they're in a better position to close this one out. That's what I reported. I don't think FSU's out of it, but for right now, that's kind of where I'm leaning.
You used a specific word in your report on Knowles 24/7. What was the word you used of why you think Penn State is? It starts with an R.
Your favorite buzzword: relationships.
Yeah. All right. So, is now a good time to have a real conversation? I mean, we've gotten the Conrad Hussey update, but can we have a conversation about why is it on the defensive side of the football we have so much trouble with closing recruitments out, especially with guys that you supposedly have relationships with? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, Zach, what do you think? You use the Conrad Hussey, and then you can just, we all know what happened with Keldrick Falk. Same sort of thing. Hugh Freeze, the glowing pillar of Christian faith and values that he is, comes in, swoops up, takes Keldrick Falk from us. A kid that talked about relationship, committed to a guy that has like a third of a staff composed that he's known for like 3 weeks. So, okay, either he was bull crapping you, or Hugh is just a really great first impression guy. What do you think about the ability of the defensive side? What do you think? Is it the type of relationships? Do they get is there complacency after after we feel like we're in a good spot or the commitment's been made? What do you think? Is there a process that's wrong? Are there not enough resources from like an off-field staff perspective? What have you seen that you think could be tweaked so it's not like this every early signing day on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationships, maybe they've been overblown by media or recruits, as far as how much they actually matter. Obviously, it's a case by case basis with the specific recruit. But as far as FSU's process, I think they need to be a little bit more forthcoming with the recruit and trying to obtain information about their recruitment, right? It seems like a lot of times they're in the dark about other teams being involved. And, sometimes that's you're trying to be respectful to the recruit and not be too nosy. But at the end of the day, you're trying to land him. You're trying to add him to your program, and you need to be able to fend off other schools that are involved. And I think FSU needs to be better in that department and being, able to obtain information about a recruitment in a more efficient manner, especially on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, I think the best example of that is Keldrick Falk's kind of surprise visit to Auburn. I had gotten word of that earlier that day. I'm not sure FSU staff knew about that happening until reports were out there. So something that, obviously changed the outlook of that recruitment completely. If they had known about that possible visit maybe a day or two before, they have, a plan in place to maybe try and not let it happen and not let this recruitment materialize into what it became, which is a late flip to Auburn. So that's kind of my knock on what they need to do better in their relationships, in their conversations with prospects, especially on the defensive side of the football. But yeah, it's an important thing to this process. The ability to obtain accurate information and to act on that information. And I think that process is lacking a little bit for Florida State.
Do you think also, and I'm going to get Ingram's perspective on this next, obviously the information that we're getting, it's either not being asked for in a forthcoming manner. I think there is a difference between trying to get an accurate, like having an honest conversation with a kid, like a dude like Alex Atkins does about where he's standing in recruitment, to Mario Cristobal furiously pulling odd stats and shooting them at somebody's mom at all like layers of the night. There is a happy medium, I think. So do you think it's just the information gathering process, or do you think that there is a component of, I don't know, energy, willingness to recruit like a madman on the defensive side of the ball? Do you think that the guys that we currently have over there right now have the ability to up their game with some minor tweaks?
Possibly. I don't, AB says no, but I'm not going to, doubt anyone. People can change the way they recruit, right?
Sure.
But these are grown
people can't change who they are, though. And
correct. But they can change the way they handle recruitments. And
they
I
can.
think, yeah. But yeah, you're right. In their conversations, if they're not getting it done based on, not being able to jive with these kids. I mean, that's their job, right? To recruit.
Sure.
If they can't do that, then that's probably not going to change. But they can change in how they are asking questions. Like I said, obtaining information. So that part of it maybe is a little bit more manageable. But at the end of the day, if the results aren't there at a consistent enough basis, Mike Norvell is the head man, and that eventually falls on him to, in some cases, maybe make change. Right? We haven't seen him do that a ton. And that's been kind of a sell of this program too. Is that you've been able to sell continuity on the staff. That's something that is a benefit. We've seen recruits talk about that. Keith Sampson, obviously with Odell Higgins, and that's not just a Norvell thing, but he's been around for however long, 20 plus
furniture.
Years.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff does help Florida State in recruiting. But at the end of the day, some of those situations maybe you need to create change. And I think that would ultimately be beneficial for all sides. I don't know what specific coaches or positions, whatever. We won't need to get into that. But if the results aren't there, I think it falls on Norvell to make change.
I'm in sales, so my perspective on it is this, and I've worked with a bunch of sales guys, good, bad, some that started off mediocre and got better. To me, you can change processes. You can change your style a little bit. You can adapt. You can actually find a job of sales, which is what recruiting is, that is more personally comfortable to you, more natural, more organic. The thing you can't fix is like a lack of inner initiative, passion, natural curiosity. I think that's what the head man needs to do, figure out, like, are these things that can be tweaked via like best practices and processes, or recruiting is also in somebody's DNA, right? If it ain't there, you can't inject it, at least not yet. Ingram, what do you think about the recruiting on the defensive side of the ball? What do you think about an early signing day where we've been caught flat-footed a couple times? Obviously, it was better this year, which it should have been. You went 9-3, and you actually have a collective that doesn't suck now. Thank you. But we still got caught flat-footed a little bit, man. What do you think it is? Is it systemic, like just something that can be cleaned up?
It's hard to say exactly. I don't know that it's also appropriate for me to be too critical of coaches who I don't really like. All I can tell you from the knowledge that I know from my position is that I didn't know a whole lot, and I thought I knew everything before going into it. So I'll say that. I will say that there appears to be some kind of repetitive pattern here with an inability to completely, finalize a recruitment. And maybe that's still just the lingering effects of what transpired from 2017 to 2021. It may take a second for us to wash that off us, and we're continually kind of paying the tax for that. But, I think this set up relatively well. Yes, it was an early signing period, but it was 2 weeks later than it was last year. So, you did get a little bit more time to live off some of that positive energy that you created during the course of the season and things. And look, 2024 is going to have to be a banner recruiting class, and it's going to have to be that at the high school rank. You're going to have to show, in my opinion anyways, I think you're going to have to show that you can recruit the high school ranks at a level that you haven't to this point yet been able to do. And you certainly think that this year will go a long way in allowing you to do that.
And to be fair, you are getting glimpses of that ability, dude. Hakeem Williams, do not fool yourself. That was an absolutely down and dirty, old school recruiting plus new school NIL bloodbath slugfest of recruitment. Florida State came on top without pretty much any drama. Ask even the big NIL boys like how Cormani McLean's doing right now. Ask like Jurian Dickey. Ask like there was at Austin Novosad, Baylor to Oregon, dude, quarterback recruits it's happening with. So there are glimpses of it. Lucas Simmons, Blake Nicholson, same thing. You pluck a kid from across the country, obviously some previous relationships. So they have shown the ability, but you met the needs. It's not enough to get past that level. And I think that why people are probably, some of you listening right now are being like, why are you belaboring this so much after the work you've done in the transfer portal? A 9-3 season, most likely a 10th win coming in Orlando. Mike Norvell covered in Cheez-Its and of every shape, size, and flavor. Like it's a good year, man. It's our best year we've seen in 6 years. But I think that why people are belaboring it and taking a look at it is because the potential for more is there, and it doesn't take an overhaul, dude. It's just a missed opportunity here or there. But once you start stacking them up, you look at it 3 years from now and be like, man, if we had only done this, we could have been even further along in the climb, right?
It's also like a wildly new era, and I should probably just shut up here at 10:30 at night. But like an asshole like myself is running a collective. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine that being the case 4 or 5 years ago. Even explaining to coaches that this would be the case, So there's a whole different situation. I think skill sets that served guys historically aren't nearly as important now. Like it's a different, being a recruiter is a different thing than it was even in 2018. Okay. So I do think that the job has changed significantly. And I think that the, just everybody is going to have to adapt accordingly to that. And it's just a different situation, different landscape, and a totally different way of going about the process.
I think that's fair. It's sort of like a little bit of a learn to code aspect, man. You either adapt or die, and it's We'll see. I think based on whatever moves they do or don't make with the composition, and the results that they have in 2024, then this won't be so much of a hypothetical argument anymore. It'll be like, hey, this is what it is. Is it acceptable or not? And how successful actually can it be as a test case? So I think a lot of questions to be answered, but I'm with you guys on more. I think minor tweaks here and there. I think they're close. It's just you don't want to keep stacking up missed opportunities, man. Like the window for success in college football, it's a cyclical sport anyway, but it's finite.
I also think it's important for us to put this conversation into some context that we're all very happy with what happened today.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially if they can find a way to land Conrad Hussey, like it's very good what happened today. It was a good day. We all just think it can be better and needs to be better if you're going to take your program to what you classified in after a bowl practice. You classified it as wanting to take the championship steps, that you are now going to compete for championships. If those are your words, you now have to be held to that in every standard. And part of that is high school recruiting. And this is not being done at a championship standard right now.
Yeah, and I think that now, even with 2024, they're starting off in a way better place than they were last year.
Yep.
The environment surrounding the program, by the way, this episode is sponsored by the Battle's End, is much better than it was before, right? There's way more support, investment, just positive energy around it. So they got all the success to do it. And one area where there's not faltering is the transfer portal. Before we get off here, boys, let's talk about transfer portal and retention, because those are areas where there are no questions. Florida State is a top 5, if not even higher, arguably transfer portal destination in the entire country. And I don't think that should be scoffed at. And I also think, I'm not going to get into this side of the conversation, that's recruiting too. I think that should be like, that should really be taken into account when we talk about overall recruiting acumen of the staff. Transfer portal. Zach, what's next? Who's next? I think the next guy, the two guys that people are looking at are Braden Fisk from Western Michigan, Fintrell Deuce Cypress from Virginia. What are we thinking? Introducing Adam is throwing something on the screen.
Hakeem Williams' merch line he just dropped. You can go buy In Hakeem We Trust shirts. Those are the shirts that he was donning at the ceremony today. I put the link on the Noles 24/7 message board, so you can go check it out. But yeah, they're excited about that.
Boy Hakeem.
I'm glad Jaheim Bell's hacker didn't get into Hakeem's. It looks like they have somebody up there security,
Dude,
so that's
that hacker,
good.
the great graphical design guy. Looking
And
at
the audacity of that fool to design a full line of Florida State gear for that kid. And
Really,
how dare he?
How dare he?
No, but yeah. So moving into the portal stuff, you mentioned Fisk and Cypress. I'm actually going to talk about the Miami offensive line transfer, John Campbell, first. I think
Great call.
That news could come. As far as the decision for him earlier than the other two aforementioned guys. I think FSU sits in a great spot with him. They hosted him for an OB this past weekend for kind of a 1 day plus a little bit of time on Saturday deal. He's a kind of a tackle, a guy that I don't know if is going to be a surefire starter, but a guy that provides them some experience and some depth at the very least if they were able to land him. As far as the other two, Brendan talked to Fisk, the Western Michigan defensive tackle transfer. He's a guy that visited Notre Dame, USC, and Florida State over the past couple of weeks, and it looks like he's going to spend the next little bit of time coming down to a decision on whether to make a decision on one of these schools or to extend his recruitment a little bit into January to take some more visits. So to be determined on that one. Fentrell Cypress, I think FSU sits in a really good spot with other schools involved, UCLA, LSU. I guess, we'll kind of see. I think the key for him will be whether he takes his recruitment a little bit into January. Like I said with Fisk, that's something a lot of these transfer portal prospects will be considering. As far as letting other schools get in the mix, we'll see. I think FSU feels really good about where they stand after the official visit that he took to Florida State this past weekend. I think it was pretty huge to have him only visit FSU within the last week before the dead period hit.
Ingram, any thoughts on the transfer guys?
I'll only comment on the guys that have signed, and I think you did an exceptional job. I think Byers is, outside of Hakeem Williams, the most important name that we'll discuss today, and maybe your best offensive lineman immediately. I think Jaheim Bell, DBA, Standing on Business Incorporated, is a guy that I'm exceptionally excited to see, and exceptionally excited to see what he means to this offense and how they can use him. So I think there's been some absolute massive gets in the portal. The kid from Shorter College, it may take a second for him to adjust to competition, but dude, that's a body that you haven't had in a tight end room in 15
God,
years.
no.
It's totally different. So, we can have an honest back and forth about some of the things that we love on the high school scene and some of the things that we see as a troubling reoccurrence. But you got to give everybody their credit for what's been done in the portal here. You're a top 3 school in the country when it comes to portal evaluation. Now it's going to be different. It's not going to be as easy. You're never going to get a kid like Jermaine for nothing. You're probably not going to grab another verse for next to nothing. It's just different, and people have a better idea as to what this landscape looks like, and the premiums are going to be put on line of scrimmage and not even letting line of scrimmage talent get into the portal. So it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves. I would be exceptionally hesitant to just extrapolate that, oh, we're going to go get an elite end in the portal every year, because you're not. They're not going to be there. But I think what this staff has done has been very, very impressive, and they deserve, their rightful kudos for that.
Speaking of impressive, I think you're right about that, where we have been, I don't want to say spoiled, because these kids were evaluated, closed on, and recruited, but there's going to be a lot more collectives stealing the concept of the battle's end, and those type of kids ain't going to make it. They're not going to make it out like they have been these first couple of years. So speaking of retention, you can lay out or you can talk about it if you want, but I guess vaguely, any more graphics we might see from the Battles in Twitter account coming up here soon? Any things that I could retweet for you? You can let me know. Nobody's listening. Don't worry.
Nobody's listening. Definitely. Yeah, man. We I meant to talk about this on the Nolecast tonight, but I didn't.
Bud in your face.
Yeah, in your face, Bud. We signed a contract yesterday. The fact that we sponsored the signing day coverage today was the first step in that. But what I can tell you is that we signed a extensive deal. And part of that deal was for IP. So there'll be no more scrubbed uniforms on announcements. So
come on,
an announcement tomorrow of a impressive player in full uniform, wearing a jersey. Oh. Now, not anybody. I'm not teasing anything that you guys aren't otherwise familiar with. But
the bobs are flying.
Yeah. I don't. I realize some sign off a conversation and be like, oh my god, I just started a rumor mill that I did not mean to at all. But
everybody coming back. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Confirmed. In fact, we just found Walter Jones a couple years of eligibility that we didn't know.
Yeah, he's back, man. He's totally fine.
So, but no, we've got the ability to use IP, and that'll be awesome in promotional aspects, but also it'd be great for my timeline not to fill up with the same 29 assholes who fill up with the BC jokes on every graphic that I put out. So that'll be awesome to get away from.
Some of those 29 guys have a Knowles 24/7 membership. I've seen that joke a while. Speaking of guys coming back, now I know what Marvin Jones Sr.'s little kebab emoji was for. We're getting him back on the field, suiting him up, right, Ingram?
It's if I had anything to do with it, yes, I would run away with all of the money that I have and try to see if we couldn't get Marvin to play again. Absolutely.
I love it. Be on the lookout, guys. Anything else that you would like to add as your Jerry Springer final thoughts out of all this? I thought this was a good, wide-ranging conversation. I feel good. I really do. And it's early signing day, which is National Signing Day. It's a roller coaster, but I feel good. Oh, yeah, also hit the like button, you filthy animals. Zach, what do you think? Postmortem, final thoughts? We feeling good, overall positive? Today, was it a good day, Ice Cube?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to compare it to last year just because of how terrible that day went. At least, at the very least, like, you don't have anything similar to that. No surprise, like, crazy happening today, honestly, which is a plus. And you get your class locked down for the most part. All the guys that are currently in the boat are locked in for signed in December. You don't really have any remaining guys you have to worry about, which I think is a plus, like I said before. And then you're killing in the portal, and I don't think you're done there either. So I feel pretty good about where FSU is standing. Could it have been better? Yes, we talked about that at length. But I'm pretty satisfied with where things stand right now.
22 now. How many more do you expect? Rough estimate.
Tough to say. I think some of that depends on if FSU has any post bowl game departures maybe from the program as far as attrition, but maybe 3 to 5 I think is a fair number, right, in the portal. Maybe you add another D tackle. Obviously they're trying to with Fisk, a few more defensive backs, and then we'll see where things stand. Maybe an edge rusher as well. I think that's definitely going to be a guy in the portal that or a position in the portal that FSU prioritizes over the next month and change.
All right. Well, glad I don't have the chat up while I do this, but it sounds like Jim's having a blast. Ingram, what do you think? Postmortem final, what do you think? Final thoughts on signing day? Adam is just, he's a very professional troll, but he can't help himself. Go ahead, Ingram. What do you think? What do you think how today went?
I don't think that was Adam's fault, but no, it was a great day. All things considered. There were some significant moments of disappointment, but that's what signing day is going to be for damn near every school that's not located in Athens, Georgia right now. So it was what it was. It'll be interesting to see how staff adjust. They've learned from previous challenges in the past, and we'll just have to see. But no, I mean, things are on the uptick for this program. I think today was another example of it. Was it, maybe as quite a shining and bright example as we had hoped to be? Maybe not, but still, you improved your roster significantly, showed you had the ability to go out and get a kid in Hakeem Williams that Bama, Georgia, A&M, Miami, every other school that you think of that doesn't lose too many battles on the recruiting trail, lost one today. And
their battles ended today.
And that was a big step. Absolutely.
Their battles ended today.
Is that what happened? Yes.
Yeah, their battles ended. I don't know if you caught that. Anyway, Adam, what do you go ahead. You're kidding.
It wasn't a good day. It wasn't a bad day. It was a day.
Oh, it was good overall. Good. Stop it, you big surly so-and-so.
Can I finish my sentence?
I thought you said we were very happy about today. What happened?
He's a flip-flopper, dude.
Yeah. No, I'm not flip-flopping anything. Program keeps moving forward. They got better. Yes, they did. But I don't think you could classify it as a good day because they did miss out on a Keldrick Falk. They didn't get, I thought they had some opportunities at a couple spots where they could have really taken the next step, and they didn't today. So I'm not going to classify it as good, but it wasn't bad. So I think that's where I'm at. It's just it was a day.
Progress.
Yeah, it's progress. You're right. It's progress for them. And I think the thing that excites me the most is Mike is a constant evaluator and really good at finding weaknesses in it throughout his program, and I think he's going to do that.
Adam's wrong. It was a good day. It wasn't a great day, but I had a pretty good day. And I tell you what was great, this stream with my 3 buddies, my 3 pals, my 3 amigos. Guys, thank you. All the peeps in the chat, even Jim. Thank you guys for everything. I learned how to turn on the comments on a chat, and I will I don't think I'm actually going to turn them on again. That was a lot of information to process. Just like all the information that we gave you guys to process. Listen, Noles 24/7, we're not done. You heard it from Ingram's mouth. Look out. Florida State Uni's on the Battles in graphics. We got a lot of stuff, and Noles 24/7 is the premier hub to get all your information. If you're not a subscriber, you're a loser, so fix it. Also, subscribe to all of our YouTube pages. Zach and I are going to be just lighting this medium on fire with a whole lot of dope AF content. Guys, I love you. We made it through, and it was a good day. I love you guys. Keep chopping.